We often look for blessings in the form of major breakthroughs, unexpected financial gain, miraculous healings, or doors swinging open at just the right moment. But what if the blessings you are searching for are already around you? What if the things you overlook every day are actually gifts waiting to be recognized? How you see the world determines how you experience it. Two people can go through the exact same situation and walk away with completely different outcomes, not because their circumstances were different, but because their perspectives were. Your mind is one of the most powerful tools God has given you, and the way you use it will shape your life. Think about the story of the 12 spies in the book of Numbers. They were all sent to scout the promised land. They all saw the same land, the same opportunities, and the same challenges. But 10 of them came back with fear, saying, "The land is great, but the giants are too big, we can't win." Meanwhile, 2, Joshua and Caleb, saw something different. They acknowledged the giants, but their focus was on God's promise. They said, "Yes, there are giants, but God is with us. We can take this land." The only difference between these two groups was their perspective. 10 of them focused on the obstacles, and as a result, they were paralyzed by fear. 2 of them focused on the promise, and as a result, they walked with confidence. The 10 who saw obstacles missed out on God's favor. The 2 who saw opportunity stepped into their destiny. The same principle applies to your life. What you focus on expands. If you constantly focus on problems, challenges, and what isn't working, that's what your reality will be filled with. But if you focus on possibilities, growth, and God's favor, you will begin to see more of it. Think about a time when you faced a challenge. Maybe it was a financial setback, a health crisis, or a difficult season in your relationships. In that moment, you had 2 choices. You could see it as a roadblock or as an opportunity for growth. You could see it as something happening to you or something happening for you. The way you chose to see that situation shaped how you experienced it. Perspective is powerful because it influences not just how you think, but how you act. If you believe that God is for you, that He has a plan, and that even challenges are part of your growth, you will walk with confidence. You will take action. You will keep moving forward. But if you believe that life is unfair, that nothing ever works out, and that obstacles are signs to give up, you will hesitate, you will doubt, you will shrink back. This is why renewing your mind is so important. Romans 12:02 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Transformation starts in your thoughts. If you want a better life, start with a better perspective. Some people go through life always seeing what's wrong. They wake up in the morning and immediately think about everything they have to do, every problem they need to solve, every stress they are facing. Others wake up and immediately think about the fact that they have another day, another opportunity, another chance to grow and move forward. Their situations may be similar, but their experiences are completely different because of their perspective. Gratitude is one of the simplest ways to shift your perspective. When you start focusing on what you already have instead of what you lack, your entire outlook changes. Instead of seeing obstacles, you start seeing opportunities. Instead of feeling stuck, you start feeling empowered. Instead of dwelling on what's missing, you begin to appreciate what's present. Even in difficult seasons, God is working. Even in setbacks, He is shaping you. When you begin to see life through the lens of faith instead of fear, through the lens of gratitude instead of lack, your reality begins to shift. Perspective is a choice. Every day you get to decide how you will see your circumstances. Will you see obstacles or opportunities? Setbacks or setups? Problems or possibilities? What you choose to focus on will shape your reality. In a world that often celebrates the big moments, grand achievements, major breakthroughs, and life-changing opportunities, it's easy to overlook the small gifts that surround us every day. But what if the things we see as insignificant are actually some of the most valuable? What if the small moments, the little acts of kindness, and the seemingly ordinary blessings are the very things shaping our lives in ways we don't even realize? The truth is, God works through the small things. He doesn't just show up in the miraculous. He is present in the everyday. The sunrise that greets you in the morning, the breath in your lungs, the unexpected smile from a stranger, the quiet moments of reflection, these are all gifts. But too often we overlook them because we are too focused on what we don't have, what we're still waiting for, or what we believe we need to feel fulfilled. Think about the story of the widow in 2 Kings 4. She had nothing left. No money, no food, no way to provide for her children. She was desperate. But when the prophet Elisha asked her what she had in her house, her response was, "Nothing at all, except a small jar of olive oil." To her, that little jar seemed insignificant. It wasn't enough to change her situation, but Elisha told her to gather empty jars from her neighbors and begin pouring out the oil. As she obeyed, the oil didn't run out until every jar was full. What she thought was too small to matter was actually the key to her breakthrough. How often do we dismiss the small things in our own lives? We think it's just a little kindness. It won't make a difference. It's just a small step. It won't lead anywhere. It's just a short prayer. It won't change anything. But the reality is, the small things often hold the greatest impact. Consider a tiny seed. It seems insignificant, almost forgettable. But within that seed is the potential for an entire tree, for fruit, for shade, for a legacy that lasts generations. The same is true for the small gifts in your life. A simple word of encouragement could change someone's day. A single step in faith could open a door you never expected. A moment of gratitude could shift your entire mindset. Jesus emphasized this idea when he spoke about faith the size of a mustard seed. He didn't say we needed massive, unshakable faith to see God move. He said even the smallest amount, if planted and nurtured, has the power to move mountains. Why? Because small things, when placed in God's hands, multiply. Think about the boy with the 5 loaves and 2 fish in John 6. When thousands of people were hungry, the disciples saw the small lunch as inadequate. But Jesus took what little was offered, gave thanks, and multiplied it to feed thousands. The boy's small act of giving became a miracle. We live in a culture that tells us bigger is better, that success is about grand accomplishments, that significance comes from standing in the spotlight. But God often does his greatest work in the small, unseen moments. The quiet act of faithfulness, the daily choice to trust him, the unnoticed sacrifices made for the sake of others. These are the things that hold real value. The challenge is to start seeing the small gifts for what they really are. Instead of overlooking them, embrace them. Instead of dismissing them, appreciate them. Because when you do, you'll realize that the small things you once took for granted were never small at all. They were the foundation for something greater. They were reminders of God's presence, his provision, and his faithfulness in every moment. No one enjoys going through difficult seasons. Hardships, setbacks, and challenges can feel overwhelming. And in the middle of them, it's easy to wonder if there's any purpose in the struggle. But what if the very thing you're fighting against is actually a pathway to something greater? What if your most difficult seasons are not meant to break you, but to build you? Throughout history, some of the most remarkable stories of transformation have come from seasons of adversity. Think about Joseph in the Bible. He had a dream that he would one day be in a position of power, but before that dream became reality, he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. If you stopped the story there, it would seem like nothing but misfortune. But every hardship Joseph faced was positioning him for his purpose. The betrayal placed him in Egypt. Slavery placed him in Potiphar's house. False accusations placed him in prison, and prison placed him before Pharaoh. What seemed like setbacks were actually stepping stones. Without the difficulties, he never would have stepped into his destiny. The same is true for you. That season you're in right now, the challenge, the pain, the uncertainty, may feel like an obstacle, but it could be the very thing preparing you for something greater. Sometimes God's greatest blessings come wrapped in difficulties. Difficult seasons refine us. They reveal what we truly believe, expose weaknesses we need to overcome, and strengthen our character. It's easy to have faith when everything is going well, but real faith is built in the struggle. When you walk through hardship and still choose to trust, when you don't have all the answers but still choose to believe, that's when you grow. James 1:02 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Trials are not a sign that God has abandoned you. They are a sign that he is growing you. Think about how gold is refined. It must go through intense fire to be purified. Without the fire, the impurities remain. The same is true for us. We often pray for strength, wisdom, and resilience, but we forget that these qualities are developed in difficulty. Strength is built through struggle. Wisdom is gained through experience. Resilience is formed through challenges. Some blessings are only seen in hindsight. Have you ever looked back on a difficult season and realized that despite the pain, it led to something good? Maybe a job loss pushed you into a better opportunity. Maybe a closed door redirected you to a new path you never would have chosen otherwise. Maybe a difficult relationship taught you self-worth. At the time, it may have felt like everything was falling apart, but looking back, you can see how everything was actually falling into place. The key is to trust that God is working, even when you don't understand how. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." You may not see the full picture right now, but that doesn't mean there isn't one. Difficult seasons also have a way of revealing what truly matters. They strip away distractions, refocus our priorities, and remind us of what is essential. When life is easy, it's tempting to take things for granted, but in hardship, we gain clarity. We realize the value of faith, the power of community, and the importance of resilience. Some of the most powerful testimonies come from people who have walked through the fire and come out stronger. The struggles you face today could one day become the encouragement someone else needs. Your story, your perseverance, your ability to keep going despite the obstacles, these may be the very things that inspire others to do the same. It's easy to see the blessing in seasons of success. It takes faith to see the blessing in seasons of difficulty. But if you look closely, you'll realize that even in the hardest moments, there is purpose. Even in the pain, there is growth. Even in the struggle, there is something being built within you that you will one day look back on and be grateful for. Purpose is not something we stumble upon by accident. It is revealed through the gifts, talents, and opportunities God places in our lives. The challenge is that many people spend their lives searching for meaning while overlooking the very gifts that God has already given them. When you learn to recognize God's gifts, both big and small, you begin to understand your greater purpose. Every person is created with unique strengths, abilities, and experiences that shape who they are. These are not random, they are intentional. Your natural talents, your passions, and even your struggles are all part of the bigger picture God is painting in your life. The problem is that many people dismiss their own gifts because they seem too ordinary or insignificant. Think about Moses. When God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses doubted himself. He focused on what he lacked. His ability to speak, his fear of failure, his past mistakes. But God didn't ask Moses to be perfect. He simply asked, "What is in your hand?" Exodus 4:02. All Moses had was a staff, something he had used every day as a shepherd. But in God's hands, that simple staff became a tool for miracles, parting the Red Sea and demonstrating God's power many times. We underestimate what God has already given us. We think, "I don't have enough talent. I'm not qualified. I don't have the right connections." But God isn't asking you to bring something you don't have. He's asking you to recognize what is already in your hand and trust Him to use it. Recognizing God's gifts also requires a shift in perspective. We often think of gifts as only the things that bring immediate joy or success, but sometimes the greatest gifts come disguised as challenges. A difficult season can teach perseverance. A closed door can lead to a better opportunity. A struggle can reveal strengths you didn't know you had. Joseph's story is a powerful example of this. As a young man, he had dreams of greatness, but instead of stepping directly into his purpose, he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. To an outsider, it looked like his life was nothing but hardship. But in every stage of his journey, God was shaping him. The leadership skills he developed in Potiphar's house and the wisdom he gained in prison prepared him for the day he would rise to power in Egypt and save a nation. If Joseph had only focused on his hardships, he would have missed the gifts within them. Your gifts are not just for you. They are meant to serve others. When you recognize what God has placed inside of you and begin using it, you step into a greater purpose, one that impacts the people around you. Jesus said in Matthew 5:16, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Your gifts are meant to bring light to the world. But recognizing your gifts isn't enough. You have to be willing to use them. Fear and self-doubt often hold people back from stepping into their purpose. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? But the truth is, your gifts were given to you for a reason. The more you use them, the more they grow. The more you embrace them, the clearer your purpose becomes. David was just a shepherd boy when he stepped up to face Goliath. He didn't wear the king's armor or wield a mighty sword. He used what he already had, his slingshot and his faith. What seemed like an insignificant skill became the very thing that positioned him for his destiny. God's gifts in your life are already present. They are in your talents, your experiences, your struggles, and your passions. The more you recognize them, the more you will begin to see how they connect to a greater purpose. Purpose isn't something far off in the future. It's already within you, waiting to be recognized, embraced, and used for something far bigger than yourself.